Hey guys, Scott Grossberg from Thinking Magically. It's January 7th, and I want to share with you, because we're still relatively into the new year, a phenomenal tool that I have found for helping people with change and for reinforcing their internal beliefs. Now, to do this, I use the deck of shadows. You can use tarot cards or any other oracle device that you particularly are fond of. And I want to start with the understanding that this all involves something called ideomotor responses. Now, ideomotor responses are something that I am very fond of using, triggering, and calibrating, and it's what makes a pendulum work. For those of you who do pendulum work, what you do is you'll hold the pendulum up and you will talk or guide somebody through the movements of the pendulum. So back and forth may mean yes, sideways may mean no, and circular may mean maybe. In order for this to work, in order for the ideomotor responses to actually have sense, you calibrate them, which means that beforehand, before you actually go into the technique, you've told or guided or helped the person that you're working with understand what the individual responses you expect to see will in fact be. Now, for this technique, something that I call the hands of truth, I'm using the deck of shadows. You can use tarot cards or any other oracle device that you think is appropriate. I'm using the deck of shadows for obvious reasons, because I think that the deck demonstrates some even deeper layers for people. Now, at its bare minimum, what you're going to do is you're going to get somebody to hold their hands out, and then you're merely going to suggest to them, in no hurried fashion, that one hand is going to begin to feel heavier and another hand is going to begin to feel lighter. You're not directing which hand it is, and that, by the way, is the key to this. You're not telling them which hand is going to be lighter or which hand is going to be heavier. You're merely suggesting that after a short while, one hand begins to feel lighter, one hand begins to feel heavier, or one hand begins to rise and the other hand begins to fall. That's at the bare minimum what you're going to suggest to them. Here's the real key. You're going to take a deck of shadows and you're going to have it mixed and have it shuffled. And then you're going to take out two cards that call to you. You're the reader. Two cards that call to you. And you're going to turn them face up, and you're going to place the two cards in the person you're working with hands, one in the left hand, one in the right hand. Now in this case I happen to have wretched excess in my left hand and time in my right hand. They're face up, and the person you're working with sees them. You ask them to hold their hands out, and all you say is, after a short while, one of your hands begins to be heavier, begins to lower, and the other hand feels lighter and begins to rise. And then you just wait. And at some point, you just watch for the slightest of movements, and then you suggest further, that's right. And as your one hand begins to lower, your other hand begins to rise. And you watch the movements and the reactions and the responses to this. Now you take the card that has been in the hand that's lowering, and you set that aside. This is the card, by the way, that will represent what they are now moving away from. And the card that is in the hand that's rising is the card that they are moving towards, the goal that they are moving towards. And then you just do a reading on those two issues, what they're moving away from, what they're moving towards. The reason that I call this the hands of truth is that the person you're working with is the one who actually gets to decide what hand goes down, what hand goes up. You haven't told them that they're moving away or towards anything. That's something that you interpret later on. You're merely looking for those internal keen responses that tell them this is heavier, this is lighter. And it's going to be different every time. There may be those times, by the way, when you get no movements at all, which means that they may have plateaued and you want to read that. But again, with just the slightest of suggestions, you're going to see one hand lower and one hand raise, and then you take those two cards and read it. This is a really fun, really fast, really spectacular technique that I use. It's phenomenal for affecting change in people because they are so involved in the process, and I think they're going to find it fascinating when they see their own hands start to move. So again, Happy New Year. I hope that this is a really powerful technique that you put to use, and I really can't wait to hear how it works for you. Until next time, stay magical.